Hi, I'm Jay Cross. Let's talk for a minute about something, or maybe a couple of minutes, about something that is very, very important. Learning with the environment in mind. Now, I didn't come upon this on my lonesome, but no, I've been asked to be the opening keynote for something called LearnX, which is in Melbourne, Australia, and one of the themes is learning with the environment in mind. In fact, it's sort of a green learning conference, if you will. Now, you may know me as the author of Informal Learning and wonder, well, what does this have to do with the environment? But actually has quite a bit, because informal learning is more about getting things done, learning what you need to accomplish things, than it is about book learning. It's learning without borders, so we can take on this topic, we can take on any topic we feel like. Life is like that. And often it's co-created, you and me. Now, I recognize you can't speak very loud from where you are, but let's treat this as sort of a catalyst and things that you'll think over. And if you join us in Melbourne, we'll continue the conversation there. Stuart Brand in 1966 more or less started the ecology movement by urging NASA to publish a photo of the Earth from space. And this really brought home the sort of Buckminster Fuller used to call it spaceship Earth, but you know, there's only so much here, and we've got to take care of it. In spite of that, some people are fighting, saying, you know, sort of don't worry about it. And I think this is incredibly short-term thinking. I mean, don't worry about it. Let's wake up and smell the coffee. The polar ice caps are melting. It's, you know, the hottest year ever. There's some big stuff going on, and it's time for us to do something about it. Why haven't we? Well, I think we're still hung up with notions from the industrial age. The industrial age, there was a certain, you know, if you think back to Descartes and Newton, precision and control, and people as factory workers weren't expected to bring emotions to the table. Henry Ford complained that whenever he hired two hands, it came with a mind attached to it. And yet, we know that emotions are critical. One reason that people don't jump up and down when they see Al Gore show a chart of incredible proportions about what's going on with warming is because people aren't rational. When I was in school, economics was based on a thing called the rational economic man, as if people were rational. Finally, somebody said that emperor has no clothes, and he won a Nobel Prize for it a few years ago. I think of increasingly business, learning, all the things in our environment as more akin to nature than to production processes. It's a very complex, interactive situation we've got here. And to try to look at it one element at a time is simply not going to work. Now, nature's sort of tricky. What's wrong with this picture? Why does this look unnatural? Well, rarely do you find just one thing in nature. You find a forest, or a clump of trees, or a bunch of frogs, or lots of deer. But one is sort of unnatural, and that's unnatural for people, too. Conversation is probably the most powerful learning tool there is, and it takes two to tango. So when we think about environmental things, let's not get hung up on figuring it out ourselves. We've got to link arms and work together to get things in gear. It still doesn't explain why we haven't smelled a coffee yet. And part of that is due to evolution. If you took the history of the universe from the Big Bang till today, and you put it into a one-year calendar, the first humans wouldn't show up until 10:30 the last night of the year. The last tenth of a second of the year, filled with things, the Trojan War, Buddha's born, Rome falls, the Renaissance. The Renaissance is 1 minute till midnight, so we're sort of actually recent interlopers on the scene, especially in terms of geological time. This is a painting in the Lascaux Caves. Beautiful if you haven't seen them. And it was completed by Cro-Magnons, and it showed what they were most interested in, which was hunting animals. Now, in order to hunt animals, you need to be able to run when you're in danger, to throw a spear and see if you kill something. I mean, it's all short-term stuff. And in fact, if the average lifespan is 18 years old, well, what gets passed forward is what it takes to keep you together until you're 18 and to reproduce. A lot of teenage sex back then, but to reproduce. And yet, that was, that's great for this Cro-Magnon, but it's not so great for us today. But we've got the same kind of brain, almost exactly the same kind of brain. So we'd be great if we were out spearing things, but as far as looking down the pike for another week, another month, a year, that's just not in there. And to make it worse, time itself is speeding up. I mean, look at the rate of new things coming out or your email box filling up. So we're getting deeper and deeper into a hole. Now, what can we do about this? Back to Stuart Brand. Stuart's now chairman of the Long Now Foundation. And the Long Now Foundation encourages us to think about the next 10,000 years. We've been around for about 10,000 so far. So it's, if this is a halfway point, what does it take? And in fact, he's looking there at the 10,000 year clock, which the Long Now Foundation is building. Taking a longer perspective is part of the answer, that's for sure. And if we think back to what Stuart started with, this was a static picture. We didn't have multimedia available. NASA did not release videos. Think what we could do today and what impact it might have if we could not just show a static picture, but show a sped up image of what happens to the Earth as a consequence of what we're doing to it. Now, at the end of the day, this isn't about learning to do something. This is about learning to be something. We've all got to take the long view. We've got to work together, or we will die. Now, we may or may not talk about this at LearnX. Informal learning is spontaneous. If this is important, at the time, we will talk about it. But we may well talk about something else. Well, thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.